In the name of Allah, may peace and blessings be upon the Messenger of Allah and upon his family and followers until the day of resurrection. To proceed, Hadith number 15 on the authority of Abu Hurayrah, may Allah be pleased with him, who said that the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Whosoever believes in Allah and the last day, then let them say that which is good or be quiet. And whosoever believes in Allah and the last day, then let them be generous to their neighbour. And whosoever believes in Allah on the last day, let them be generous to their guest," reported by Bukhari and Muslim. So this hadith, it shows the etiquettes of Islam that are wajib, that are obligatory upon the Muslim. The first of these is an etiquette in oneself, in that the Muslim or the believer only speaks good or they be quiet. The next point of benefit is that it's obligatory to be generous to one's neighbour and to be good to one's neighbour. And the scholars say that if the neighbour is a Muslim and a relative, then they have three levels, or they have three rights as people living next door to you. Firstly, the right of the neighbour. Secondly, the right of Islam. And thirdly, the right of their being a relative. If they are a Muslim, then they have two rights: the right of being a Muslim and the right of being a neighbour. And if they are not Muslim, then they have one right, and that is the right of being a neighbour, and that's something that we hold to be very important. As for the guest, this is the person who has been defined by the Sheikh Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymeen as the one who comes to visit you, and while you are in your land or you're in your hometown, your home country, and that person is passing through as a traveller. So they're a stranger to the land and they are in need of your help. So to be generous to this type of person, this is from the actions of faith. And as for going back to the first point, where we say that which is good or we be quiet, this is because the tongue is from one of the most dangerous parts of a person, because through speech we can cause great upset, we can break things that are wajib, we can fall into the haram, and we can do a lot of good. And it's easily done and it's very difficult to undo. May Allah give us success to guard our tongues. Also in this hadith, we see that there are a number of benefits relating again to the rights of the neighbour. We see that giving them their rights, it's obligatory to be generous to them, and that's by not harming them in any way, and also extending goodness to them in any which way we can. So whosoever harms their neighbour or doesn't extend goodness to them, then by this they are not a believer. And that doesn't mean that they fall outside the fold of al-Islam. Rather, it means that there is a deficiency in that Islam. And the Sheikh, he mentions that from the benefits of this hadith, and it's maybe a difficult point, but it's one that we'll look at briefly, is that it's correct to negate someone's iman if it's a negation of the completeness of their iman, but they still have some sort of iman and they're still called a believer. So it's correct to negate someone's faith, but it's not necessarily a negation of their faith in a complete sense. If you remember the hadith of Jibreel, the hadith of Gabriel, we saw that Islam is of different levels, and in this hadith we see a negation of the completeness of Islam, and it's not a complete negation of Islam. A complete negation would mean that person, that individual, is no longer a Muslim, but a negation of completeness means that perhaps they're not a believer, but they are a Muslim. And from the benefits of this hadith, we see the care that al-Islam gives to keep the rights of the neighbours and of the guests. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the success to do this, and may peace and salutations be upon his Prophet, upon his family and followers.